Today's episode of Lone Star Lawyers on the Varsity Podcast Network is brought to you by Varsity Search. Varsity Search builds great teams by connecting lawyers in Texas with career opportunities at small and boutique law firms. So if you're thinking of making a move or your law firm is looking to hire, please go to varsitysearch.com and book a time to visit right into my calendar. Varsity Search, building great teams. Hey everyone, Daniel Hare back with you on Lone Star Lawyers. I hope you had a wonderful 4th of July weekend and an extended holiday. And before we get started, I want to let you know about a few of the opportunities that we are currently searching for right now quickly here in Dallas. Several things: a construction litigator, a general business and commercial litigator, a corporate / M&A lawyer, and then a trial law boutique attorney. In Austin, a family lawyer, and then a special education lawyer. In Tarrant County and in Fort Worth, a family law attorney, as well as a real estate corporate attorney. In Houston, an insurance defense lawyer and a trial lawyer, kind of general trial law. And then San Antonio, a business and probate litigation attorney. So a lot there. There's more than that, but those are just a few of the ones that we're currently searching for. So if any of that sounds interesting to you or maybe to someone you know, please let me know, and I would love to visit about it. You can email me, daniel@varsitysearch.com. All right, today we are in Dallas, where our guest is Reagan Riddle. Reagan is a partner and board-certified family lawyer with Armstrong Divorce and Family Law. She has been recognized as a best lawyer in family law since 2019 by Best Lawyers in America and a Best Lawyers Under 40 selection by D Magazine each of the past 4 years. Reagan emphasizes bringing compassion, communication, and caring into her practice, soft skills that make her an excellent attorney and a perfect person to be a guest to share with us on this show. All right, with that, let's hop into our conversation with Reagan Riddle on today's Monday Mentors episode of Lone Star Lawyers. Reagan Riddle joins us right now. Reagan, thanks so much for taking time to come on the show with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I love this idea. This is such a great thing to do, especially during COVID times.
I know, absolutely. Well, and as we were talking beforehand, you are in a nice Zoom room that's all configured just for this. So, yes, we're. I think our audience will be very appreciative of that and hearing you talk through what you have over there. So this is great. All right, let's start off by just hearing about your firm and your practice and what you do, and let's tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So. My law partner and I, Rebecca Armstrong, started Armstrong Divorce and Family Law a little over 2 years ago. So one of our 2 years was in the pandemic.
Right.
And it's all we do is family law. We do premarital agreements and, custody cases and divorces and adoptions. And we both had been at a bigger family law firm and decided that we wanted to do something different in our sphere. We wanted to create a different atmosphere and environment for our employees. And also, we were really wanting to kind of move the practice of law, at least in our field as we've seen it, into the future in terms of utilizing the technology that we have. And I think a lot of attorneys and law firms have realized that they need to start moving in that direction, having had almost exclusively all of our hearings and trials over Zoom and, other, online, video chatting services. And so we basically kind of modeled our firm kind of almost like as like a tech firm. We have a completely collaborative and open workspace environment here. Which I think some people tend to enjoy or don't.
Right.
But it's just one of those things that we wanted to create this more client-focused, centric, like what's the easiest way for our clients to get through this really stressful process, as you can imagine, going through a divorce or custody battle. And so that's kind of what, and I guess short story long, why we decided to move forward and start this firm a couple of years ago, and it's been going awesome. And I think before this, we talked about we just hired another new associate.
Yeah.
And so it's been really a great adventure, and feel like everyone at the firm is just really excited to see where we go from here too.
Yeah. So, do you feel like part entrepreneur, business person, part lawyer? How would you divide your, what you feel like you do now? How much is what?
Yes. So when you start your own firm, you don't really think about, you think about, yes, I'm a lawyer and I'm great at what I do and I love what I do, but you don't think about all the nitty gritty that goes into running a business. And that's part of what we do is, we have our business hat on of like, how can we make this job better for our employees? How can we make this? And then we put our lawyer hat on and think, how can we make this firm better for our clients? And so it is something that you constantly are juggling. And, it's much more than you think, down to I don't know how the health insurance game works for your employees. We had to figure all that out. It's little things like that you don't think about, but I will say it is 100% worth it. If you have any interest in starting your own law firm, do it. You will, I don't know a single person who has gone out on their own that has regretted that decision. Because if you're thinking about doing it, there's probably something going on with your current employment that you want different, you want change that's not happening. So,
yeah. Absolutely. Well, and I think too, for people that, especially if they you had someone to do it with, and that I think probably makes it a little bit easier and more fun and all of those things to have that to do it with.
Absolutely. You should pick a friend maybe to also go with you, because we can bounce ideas off each other, and we can also split the administrative work. And also we talk to one another about, hey, let's, the first year before COVID happened, every quarter we were doing something great for the employees at our firm. We were like, hey, how about we are an all female. I will say we're all females, not by choice, but just because these were the most qualified people that we hired, and they all happened to be women. Right. And so we, at the beginning of our journey into this firm, would schedule, we had masseuses come to the office and give massages to everyone one day. And then we all got our nails done the next month. And we like doing fun things together as a group. It creates unity, but also, who doesn't love a massage? After you just had a big hearing and you had all your paralegals helping you on it, who doesn't love getting a massage after that?
That's awesome. Well, and just being able to do those types of things when you're on your own and you can just make those choices and do them, and you don't have to run them by a committee or 10 people, there's a lot of freedom there and a lot of creativity that gets unleashed. And I think there's a lot of cool stuff that comes from it. So that's really cool to hear about your firm. When it comes to the practice and what's going on in family law, talk a little bit about that right now. Obviously, the last year and a half, I think, has been particularly hard on families and people that have been struggling. So I think the family law area has seen some consequences of that. And then the court cases, or the courts being, essentially kind of hampered to try to get through this over the last year too. So talk about what's been going on in the last year in family law.
It's been nuts. So it hasn't slowed down. I will say that.
Sure.
And in fact, I think we're seeing a lot of residual effect from last year now, that things are opening up. We probably have had more client calls this last month really than any of the months last year. But I think in terms of the court system and what's been going on, I think our courts in DFW area did a great job of pivoting in terms of clearing their dockets in the virtual world, in the virtual setting, because they just immediately said, okay, we're going on Zoom, or, we're going on Microsoft Teams, and that's how we're going to have our cases. And I think that they've found that a lot of times they can have access to witnesses and litigants and information that they need to make their decisions a lot easier in the virtual world, as opposed to before, where some of these people either didn't have access to the courthouse because they didn't have transportation, or they couldn't get time off work, or they couldn't afford this expert witness because that person would have to come to the courtroom and sit there for 5 hours, and you'd have to pay their bill. So now they can conveniently do that from their office or their home, and it's just a lot less expensive overall. And I think I've really enjoyed practicing over Zoom, because it's a lot less expensive for my client in terms of just, for the young lawyers maybe who haven't necessarily been in court as much. It's the day of going to trial is the day of bringing and hauling all of your boxes, and all those boxes are filled with hundreds of pages of paperwork and exhibits and multiple copies. And so that takes time. That takes a lot of paralegal time, a lot of money to put those boxes together and organize those and bring them down to the courthouse. Whereas now we electronically submit all of our exhibits. We don't have to make copies. The court has them, accesses them right then and there during the hearings. And so that just saves hours and hours of time, which then translates to those clients who maybe couldn't have afforded going to trial and settling for something less than, because they just couldn't pay for it, are able to get their day in court. And I, for one, really appreciate that. And they also don't have to pay for my travel time and all of that. So it's been really great. I hope that they continue to allow us to virtually appear on some of these hearings. I know that some of the judges that I've met with have said that they are going to continue to have dedicated virtual days, so you can set your hearings on those days. But I imagine that it would probably have to be by agreement. But I hope that we're able to still keep moving forward. Although I did hear from a judge recently that nothing is settling. Like, because we're doing it all virtually, nothing is settling. Apparently, when lawyers have to put pants on and then like go to the courthouse, they'll settle that. but since it's online,
that's interesting.
We'll try it.
Like, settlements are way down right now. Okay, interesting. Okay, well, that's. I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's the first I've heard of that, and that's interesting and cool to kind of think about what that means. Well, and since it's June 10th as we're talking here, legislative session for the regular session just closed. Was there anything family law specific or related that you were paying attention to, or that family lawyers were paying attention to this last session?
Yeah, there actually was. I don't remember which House bill it was, but there was a big to-do that the dads groups were pushing for the family code to, instead of having our standard possession schedules, for the family code to presume that was in the best interest of the child that there be an equal possession schedule. So a 50-50 possession schedule. And so that was a big deal, because I was getting emails from several clients, male and female, being like, how does this affect my case? Is this going to pass? And then it ended up, I think, not passing this time around, but I don't think that's the end of this discussion. I think it comes up year after year. But I do think it's gaining traction among the legislators. I think it was very close to passing this time. So that was something that would be game changing in our world, because we've just been used to the standard schedule. And I think everyone's used to that.
What is that? I'm sorry. What's the standard schedule that could default right now?
The standard schedule would be essentially an every other weekend schedule, and one overnight during the weekdays during the school year. And so it's a little bit less than 50-50. I want to say when somebody added it all up, it might have been like 48% to 52%. So it's not huge in the scheme of things when you look at it on an annualized basis, but that's been the big fight for a while now, that judges should be leaning towards a 50-50 schedule instead of this schedule. At least these are what some of these groups are pushing, which would just be really interesting, because a lot of what we base other parts of our agreements in terms of child custody arrangements it really is going to affect other issues, like who gets to decide the school. If like the child lives here half the time, the child lives here half the time, well, then what's the presumption there of where they go to school? I mean, that's just one instance of how one change can affect all the others. Not to say that that's a good or bad thing. It's just, it'll be different if that was passed this time around.
There are ripple effects that necessarily will have to be dealt with if something like that were to change. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. We'll definitely keep an eye on that. Okay. So, switching gears a little bit, I want to have you go back to your first couple of years of practice and, maybe share with us a lesson or something that you learned early on that has stuck with you and is still an important part of how you practice now today.
So I think the biggest tip I would give anyone who's a new young lawyer is find a mentor. I think that's such a big deal in order to grow your own abilities and skills. And also just have someone to bounce ideas off of, because a lot of times, at least in family law, we go to court all the time. And although we see cases that, may be similar in facts, we're always in front of a different judge who has a different opinion or a different background or just sees things in a different way. And so you're going to have to try that case differently every single time. And I still do this. I still talk to my law partner. My law partner still talks to me. I still talk to my young associates and get their perspectives on, hey, here's my set of facts. This is what we're wanting. What do you think? And how would you handle this case in front of this particular judge? And a lot of times they'll either say, well, I've had that kind of similar case in front of that judge, or, my perspective is, this or that. And I think that's invaluable to just be able to hear other people's experiences, because they all come from different backgrounds as well. And you're getting a different perspective that, and you're not, it's the forest through the trees. You're not just focused on, okay, well, I believe my client's the best. I want my client to win. And you kind of get, tunnel vision and don't kind of see maybe some of the negative things that come up at this hearing.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about? No, my client is absolutely the best parent ever. Well, what about this? And that's kind of what's really helpful. And I think being a first, your first years of practice, you're kind of scared to ask people for help, I think, a lot of the times, because you don't want to seem like you don't know what you're doing, or, you feel like, oh, that's a stupid question. Don't worry about any of that, because you're never going to grow unless you talk to people, ask them questions, and I really just get thrown into it. If they ask you to do a hearing, do the hearing, even if you're afraid and you've never done one before and you're against a 50-year attorney. Just do it. I think that's another piece of advice. Just be scared and do it.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good. And I wanted to ask you too on the mentor thing. Do you think it's better to have a mentor that is not like your immediate boss or supervisor, like in your current firm? Is it better to have someone outside of your current firm, or is that kind of close connection that you get from working day by day with someone a better source for a mentor for a young lawyer, or can it work both ways? What have you kind of seen that in that?
I think it can work both ways, but I think having someone in your firm is key. I think you can have someone outside your firm, but there are so many days where it's just something small that I want to ask somebody, and I don't know what they're doing, at that point in time, if they're not in my firm. So if they're in my firm, I can walk down the hall and say, oh, hey, you're not busy, right? Can you help me with this? Or let me get your thoughts on this. So I think if you had both, I think that might actually be great. I just think we interact with kind of the same people every day, and we'll use those individuals as resources. I mean, they're there because we're all working as a team towards the same goal. And so I think that would be great too, to get a different perspective if you did find somebody. And I think the Dallas Bar Association also has a mentorship program that's really a great resource for young lawyers, especially if you don't know what you want to do. Like maybe you've accepted a job in family law, but you don't really know anything about family law and you're just starting out and you're like, ooh, I don't know if this is for me. I think that
Mm-hmm.
may even be a better reason to find a mentor in a different field and to explore those
Yeah.
options, because it's never too late to change what path you're going down as a lawyer. I mean, you're still a lawyer.
Right.
And you can in those early years make decisions like, oh, this isn't for me. I would like to do this type of law. And so I
Yeah.
think that looking outside of your even immediate sphere of family lawyers, for example, would be a great opportunity for you to see what's out there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think it also kind of tracks with what it's been a year or two ago since I last looked at this, but there was some research and trends on mentoring and mentorship with young people, young professionals. I don't even think this is specifically for law, but just kind of young professionals in general. And but it was talking about how there was a preference for sort of almost like, instead of having kind of this one mentor that was just your one go-to person, that like it was sort of this board of directors mentoring type of deal that was preferred. So like having one in your firm, one outside your firm, maybe like someone outside of law,
Yeah.
different thing. Like it seems like that's sort of the trend line of what it looks like anyway. So that makes some sense, I think, to go along with what you're saying.
Yeah, no, I think my law partner the other day, she called me and she was like, hey, so what do you think about this? And I was like, well, I don't think you should do that. I was like, you should just, I told her to go a different way. And she's like, I called you because I thought you were going to tell me to go that, like, the more aggressive direction. If I wanted that answer, I would have gone to Lindsay, who's another attorney.
The aggressive mentor.
Yeah, she's going to tell me that. I thought you for sure. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, maybe if you need different mentors for different
Yeah.
things that you want an answer to that matches what you want to do, that's a good idea.
Right, exactly. Is there anything that you've picked up more recently that you wish someone had told you when you were a young lawyer getting started?
So I think that when I was a young lawyer, and I learned this later on, but I wish somebody would have told me to, I'm so much of a perfectionist. I think so many attorneys we're just type A people. And it's really hard to not take it personal when you're invested in this case. You go and take it to trial and you don't get everything you want, or your client's disappointed, or, you feel like you've lost. I think that when you were a young lawyer, you really take that to heart, because you almost take it like, well, the judge doesn't like me, or I didn't do enough for my client. But the reality is, you don't make up these facts. And whatever area of law you are in, you are given the facts you're given. It doesn't matter what it is. And you just have to try your best to, put those in front of the court and say, hey, this is the information that benefits my client. This is why we're wanting these things. But sometimes the judges just don't agree, and they're not going to always agree with you, and you can't control them, and you can't tell them that they need to decide it this way because that's the way you see it. And so I think that was a hard lesson learned for many years. And it took kind of an emotional toll on me, because I would come home and I just feel defeated, and I didn't do enough and this and that. But later on in this world, some mentor of mine told me, hey, you can't control these people. Did you put on the best case that you could? Did you, give all that information to the court? Was anything left out? No, because I'm super prepared. I'm super type A. Everything was given to the judge. She just didn't rule in my favor. That's life. Like, that's just what the gamble these people take when they come to the courthouse. And so that's not on you. You don't get to make those decisions. And so it took me a long time not to internalize all of that and feel like it's if I had done one more thing, if I had asked one more question, it would have gone a different way. And I think you kind of get bogged down into that when you're first starting out. You feel like you're responsible for the fate of the world, and you don't have that much power.
Yeah. I think It's been a while. It's been like maybe a year ago, but people can check me and go back. But I think James Howard, attorney down in Austin, spoke exactly on the same topic about getting used to kind of that not getting everything you want. And he's on the deal side, on the more of the transactional side, but not getting all you want in a negotiation, in a in a merger, in a purchase or whatever. But having to, oh man, I wish we would have got that one more thing that we had to give up, like that. I mean, yeah. And so, and it's someone else had mentioned, it's almost like, if you're not a heavyweight fighter or a prosecutor, you can't go perfect.
Yeah.
You can't go undefeated.
Exactly.
Floyd Mayweather can go 50-0, and prosecutors can pick all their cases and line them up and knock them down. Like everyone else is kind of just playing with what that's given.
Yes,
and so,
absolutely.
That's funny, but no, that's really good. Okay, so what's something that a young lawyer can do to stand out in a positive way or to impress you? What do you kind of see in young lawyers that you look at and say, oh, that's that person's kind of heading the right direction?
I always like to see a desire to learn, a desire to be better. Somebody that's looking for growth in their professional career, even in their personal career. I like to see that, they're involved in charities because that's something they're passionate about. Even if it's not legal related at all. I love that. And I also love that from a selfish point of view, because the more you are putting your name out there and helping other people, I mean, you are now going to give yourself a, potential for referrals in this business. Sure. And so I want you to be active in the community. I want you to be mingling with other leaders in our DFW area. I'm looking for people who are wanting not only to do family law and are passionate about this area of law, but just being better. I think you can kind of read people, whether or not they're happy in this type of career, because it takes a special person to really enjoy family law or want to continue in it. And so, I mean, that's all I can ask for. I don't even care if they're that experienced. We just hired a brand new attorney who just graduated from law school. And she came and clerked with us last summer, and she had no idea what she was doing. She knew nothing about family law. I think she may have taken maybe a class. I don't even know if she did, but she loved it. And she asked so many different questions and wanted to come to the hearings and see those things and learn all she could. And I love that, because I'm still learning, and I still want to be better. I still want to, become a better lawyer for my clients and do all that I can to build up my own skills. So I want to see that in a young lawyer coming in, a hunger and eagerness, especially when you're first starting out. You need to be really hungry and want to, take on those cases. Even though inside you may internally be freaking out, but I want you to say, yep, I'm going to do that. Yes, I really want to go try that case that we're completely going to lose. I want to do that because I want to get better. That's really the only way you can get better, is just to be outside your comfort zone and continue to build up those skills that, you're not learning in law school. That's for sure.
Right. This is probably particular for family law, especially, but not exclusive to family law. But I wonder how you have navigated kind of the separation between, getting invested in your cases and with your clients professionally and emotionally and all of that, and but not allowing it to consume you, like when you go home or when you're going to do something else, how do you, especially for people that are young and getting into family law, and that are, like you just said, coming at it with a lot of passion, energy, enthusiasm. It seems like a natural thing to also get really invested in those clients and everything that they're going through, which is in many cases the worst kind of part of their life, the worst moments of their lives. So how do you kind of walk through that and be properly, I guess, invested professionally in those cases, with those clients?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I'm still working on that. I'm still working on not getting sucked in to all of that emotion and feeling like I'm in their shoes in a way, because you do need to have some empathy and have, in
Yeah.
order to do this
Sure.
particular job, you have to be, I mean, when they say lawyer and counselor, like this is that job where you are definitely a
Yeah.
counselor, though you are not trained to be a counselor. So it is a difficult task, and every year I feel like I'm getting a little bit better at leaving it at the door, leaving it at the office. But it is really difficult. But you have to keep reminding yourself you cannot be in their shoes. You cannot be in that emotional muck that they're living in, and, and all that stress that they're living in, because how can you help them make decisions, informed decisions, if you're also on that same emotional level that they are? You
Right.
need to be their
That's good. Yeah.
advocate and be objective and help them understand and see that at the end of this, they're going to be okay. And if you're in it with them, you're not going to be able to do that. And so you're at that point not being helpful. You're being a friend, a very expensive friend, but you aren't helping them get to that finish line, to get to that light at the end of the tunnel and have this in their rear view. And so I have to remind myself sometimes when I'm getting angry about what this other guy did, like, that's awful. I mean, feel free to tell that to your client. They enjoy hearing that as well. But, that's terrible. But you got to set that aside and realize, okay, we're going to get you through this. And this is how we're going to do that. I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're feeling. But we got to make a business decision on this particular asset or whatever we're looking at, or we need to make this decision because it's in the best interest of your kiddo if we do it this way. So we're going to have to just move forward, and you've got to help them move forward. Otherwise, you're not doing your job. You're not helping them.
Yeah. No, it's really good. I feel like that's one of those things that, it just, like you said, you're still working on it. Like, it's going to take a lot of time and practice.
I don't even know if I'll ever be to the point, and maybe that's when I retire and quit, when I just can't, I emotionally am so detached that I just like, I don't care.
Right. Right. When your empathy level has gone to zero, and
I'm just like, well, whatever happens.
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned earlier that you had recently hired a lawyer, and I want to talk about that for a few minutes as we start to turn the corner here and wind down our time. But when you're in the process of looking, say, at resumes and at cover letters and looking for who might be a good fit within your firm, what are some of those things that stand out to you? Obviously, our audience are mostly in practice somewhere, so this would be more from a lateral context. I think you mentioned yours was a clerk and then a law school entry level type person most recently. But what are some of the things that stand out to you that you're looking for, maybe positively or as kind of red flags negatively?
Well, the most recent hire we had was from law school, but we actually, like a week before that, had hired a young lawyer from another firm. So that was a lateral transfer.
Okay.
And
good.
So what we liked about her resume is just, especially from a lateral position, just experience in this particular area and longer term experience, and not bouncing around to firm or even different areas of law. Like, to me, that's a red flag because of what we do. I could see in another field of law, if they're bouncing around, maybe it would be okay. But in ours, I'm thinking, okay, you don't like family law. If you're in different sections, and it's so hard to like it. So if you're not committed to it and you haven't practiced in this world, then I'm thinking you're going to come over here and you're not going to like it. After a year, you may leave and bounce around somewhere else.
Right.
And so that's, to me, I don't want to see 6 different employers in a 5-year period or anything like that. That's number one.
Right.
But, and I also look at, education and all of that. But I think for family law, my law partner's like, you need to stop doing that. She's like, you just need to like have the person come in and we need to talk to them, because that's a huge deal, is personality. Because for us, I mean, not being personable or being too quiet or being too shy is a big red flag, because we spend 99% of our day talking on the phone to our clients, to opposing counsel. I can remember back at the old firm when we had an attorney who was, I don't know, he was pretty young, and he was working on a case for me, and he said, okay, I'll get on that assignment. I'll contact opposing counsel. I'll email him the settlement agreement or whatever we were sending him. And I go, oh no, this man is 72 years old. You're gonna have to go ahead and pick up that phone, and you're gonna have to call him because he doesn't know what email is. He probably has an email. We have no idea. You might need to fax him something. A letter,
Right.
correspondence in the mail. I was like, he's not going to respond to email. They're like, he was so confused. And I said, because look at his bar license. I think it starts with like 00000 like 18. Like, so
Right.
I mean, you need somebody, and especially with the younger generation coming in. And I even struggled with it. I didn't talk on the phone half as much as I do once I started working in this area. But it's a skill, being able to talk to people on the phone without having to see their facial expressions and, be able to negotiate settlements with older attorneys who maybe aren't that technological. And so I want to see people who have had that experience. I mean, just a little bit of experience in family law and have that personality that fits not only with the firm dynamic that we have here, but also just, in general, because you're just not going to be able to maintain clients or even enjoy doing this type of law if you don't like talking to people and helping people and really talking to people in again, a counseling type capacity. Yeah.
Yeah. So when to identify that, you're mentioning your partner comes in and says you can't do it on the paper, you got to bring them in. When you get them in, do you have a manner in which you try to elicit whether or not they're that type of personality, or do you think does it just come out in a normal kind of back and forth Q&A session in an interview format? How do you try to figure out whether this person has the right kind of components to make it work?
Yeah, we just try to keep the conversation really casual, and that way we can make sure that, it's just not nerves because they're coming in and they're interviewing for this job that they really want. But that it's really, we're really getting to the root of who they are personality wise and whether or not it'll be a good fit with us. But also, I mean, when you work in family law, you meet so many different types of personalities and clients, and we get really good at reading people. So we can tell meeting somebody like, oh, wow, that candidate is really brilliant. You can tell that she would be a great writer. Like she would probably really enjoy briefing. And if that's what we needed at the time, like we needed somebody in that position, then that would be a good fit. Yeah. If we needed somebody who is, we need somebody to start taking over these cases because we can't be trying all these cases all the time. Then you want somebody who kind of has that personality of fearlessness in a way that, and I think we've at this point in time are really good at figuring out who would be a good fit for what type of work we're needing at that time. And so, no, it's never like a set of questions or anything like that. Yeah. I mean, I hate to say that we wing it, but it really is winged.
That's until you get to the point where you're hiring an HR director who's going to make you do like the formal thing. No, so you want to avoid that.
We do have an HR administrative catch-all person that works. She's awesome, and she works at the firm, and she constantly is like, "What did you say in that interview?" She's like, don't say that ever again. I was like, why? So we are getting chastised a lot.
You are. Okay. That's good. That's good. Yeah. That's funny. The last thing I wanted to just have you share if before we finish out with our rapid fire questions is just anything that we haven't touched on yet or anything that you feel like would be important for a young lawyer to know or something you'd want to leave them with before we finish up.
Yeah, I think as a young lawyer, you are, I'm sure stressed out because you're trying to learn your practice. You're trying to figure it all out. You're trying to look like you know what you're doing. And I think sometimes you miss out on kind of the fun of being an attorney and in the enjoyment and the joy of being able to practice law. I think a lot of times people think that, opposing counsel or these other attorneys on the other side, they're the enemy. I don't want to be nice to them. I don't want to be friendly with them. I
Yeah.
think a good piece of advice for young lawyers is that's the exact opposite attitude you should have. These are people who you're going to continue to see on case after case after case. And people that you're going to see at those bar events, the people that you're going to see at the judges' events. And having a good working relationship with your colleagues in your field is invaluable, because when you need that discovery extension, or you need, I missed that deadline. I always know that if I have a good lawyer that, I have treated respectively in the past, they're going to lend me that extension. They're going to say, that's fine. And, we'll just get back to it next week. And that to me I think when I was a younger lawyer, didn't really think about. I was just thinking about, I want to win my case. But think about the commute, think about beyond the case. Your case is going to end. That client is going to, that relationship with that client is going to end, but you're going to have another case with this particular attorney, I'm sure, somewhere down the line. So just be respectful and build bridges and friendships with these people. You never know who's also going to turn into a judge.
That's right. Probably going to come from your bar somewhere. Yeah, for sure.
I have a couple of judges that I used to work with. And so now I'm like, yay, that's great. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're a judge now, and I'm friends with you. So you won't remember that's that person that did this or that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. No, that's really, really, I think, helpful and smart advice. So thanks for that. All right. Our rapid fire questions. Here we go. Name one trait or characteristic that you most want to see in an associate. I
know you told me about these earlier, and then I forgot. One trait as an associate. So it's not going to be rapid fire. It's going to be slow fire.
That's all right. Medium fire.
Medium fire. Oh my gosh. I think I kind of already touched on this, but I always want to see an eagerness to learn and participate, or almost like, I feel like the associates that do the best in family law in our firm are those that are proactive, is probably the best word.
Yeah, that's good. What habit has been key to your success?
So I want to say being detail oriented, but that is not me. Like, I want to be that person.
Right. I aspire to be detail oriented.
Very detail oriented. But luckily I have great paralegals that do that for me, because that's my weak spot in terms of organization. But I think that I am great with people. Like, I think that I am really good at talking and understanding where people are coming from and helping them get to really what is, I think, the right result for their case or the right result for their family. And I think that hand holding I'm really good at. And so I think in family law, even though I didn't think I'd ever be in family law, I was like, I never want to be in family law, is actually the perfect area of law for me because of that counseling hat of mine. I really enjoy it, but I also think I'm pretty good at that.
Yeah, cool. Your favorite app or productivity tool?
I used to be a complete paper person, and I know that I'm too young to be a paper person, but I used to love it. I used to be like, you have to print out everything. If I'm making edits, I need to be on it. But since moving to this firm, I actively attempted to become paperless, even though everyone says, oh, we're paperless. No, I don't use paper anymore, except for Post-its. I like Post-it notes. But I recently purchased the Remarkable, which is kind of like a electronic notebook. It looks like a Kindle. So when you write on it, it's not glaring like an iPad. But that is my favorite technological advancement right now, is this Remarkable, because every time I go into a client meeting, I take that with me and have, write with my own handwriting, and then email those notes to my paralegal, or, I can email them to myself to put in the case file. And it's so much more organized. And if I'm on vacation, I can say, hey, the notes for that person are in the file because, they're not on a notepad. They're not on page 86 of the yellow notepad that I used to carry around.
Right.
So that to me
That's
is
cool.
my favorite technological advancement.
I don't think I've heard of that. So I'm glad you mentioned it, and I'll definitely link to it in the show notes for people to check it out.
Maybe you guys should become a spokesperson.
There
Send me a free remarkable, another one.
Where are the Insta influencer people out there? Yeah, let's get some money coming. All right, what would you list first in the interests section of your resume?
Oh my gosh. I haven't. So I recently had a child. So I no longer have interests.
Yes, you do.
I was thinking about that. I was like, what do I like anymore? I mean, sleep would be number one in my interest book. No, I really enjoy spending
diapers that don't leak.
I really like food. I'm a big foodie. I wish I would not gain weight from eating food. But I love food. I love traveling to eat. So I think that would be my number one interest. I basically just listed all the things to sustain a human body, like sleeping and eating. The basic necessities are my interests.
Well, you're still really sustaining too, so that makes sense. Yeah. That's right. Foodie, my wife is the same, and so we were actually we stayed the night in Dallas because we had the kids off to my parents, and we went and stayed the night in Dallas this past weekend. So we got to do a couple of nice food stops.
Where did you go? What did you like?
Really, we had dinner at the Charles over in the Design District. Yeah, she'd been kind of eyeing that for like a year and wanting to go check it out. And so with COVID and stuff, we weren't able to. So we loved it. Yeah.
So
and then, yeah, for sure. And then we did, someone else that was there told us to cross the street and go over to whatever the like schmoozy place is across the street from that. The Hearth one, the Town Hearth one.
Oh, yeah, with the car in the back.
Yeah, so we walked in there. It was packed and the bar was crazy. So we just looked around, checked it out, and then walked out. But no, it was fun. So, but no, that Charles, I
forgot about that place. I'm glad you said that because now I'm going to tell my husband, hey, you know where we haven't been and we need to go.
Yeah. The little cheese ball things are amazing. I don't forget what that's called, but that was the best little Parmesan cheese ball.
Okay.
Anyway, all right. Now I made this not rapid fire, so it's not your fault anymore. All right. Last one. Favorite legal movie?
The Rainmaker. That is my favorite. Every time it's on TV, I leave it on.
Definitely. That's a good one. Yeah. Kind of, young Matt Damon and Grisham era stuff, which was all great for like 10 years. And you just... Yeah.
Super sad. He never gets the money, but...
No.
But does an excellent job. This is a really good young lawyer movie too.
Yeah, no, it is absolutely, and kind of weird mentorship stuff and different things. Yeah.
Weird illegal mentorship stuff.
yeah, that's what. Awesome, Reagan. Thanks so much for coming on the show. It was a lot of fun and good to see you again. And wish you and your firm and your partners, everyone there, all the best.
Thank you, and thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
All right, my thanks again to Reagan Riddle for joining us on the show. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider doing two things for me? Would you subscribe so you don't miss an episode? And then would you rate and review the podcast in Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen? If you have suggestions or thoughts about the show, or if I could help you in any way, please email me, daniel@varsitysearch.com. Also, don't forget, if you're interested in any of those opportunities that I mentioned at the top of the show, or just like to visit about opportunities or the market in general on the lateral market, I would love to visit with you about that. So please get in touch with me. All right, that's it for today's episode of Lone Star Lawyers. Thanks again so much to each of you for listening. I'm Daniel Hare with Varsity Search, and we'll talk with you next time.